To Anatomical Inventories 101. Through interviews, we will guide you through the basics of what is known on anatomical inventories. Let's get started. I'm wondering if you can tell me what an anatomical inventory is.
Yeah, an anatomical inventory, also called an organ inventory, an organ survey, an organ list, an anatomical list, and I think an anatomical survey, is just a list of organs that a person does or does not have.
Who are anatomical inventories for and why are they needed?
Anatomical inventories are really for anybody. If you have organs, you can benefit from an anatomical inventory. It's basically how I like to describe it. It's not for any particular group of people, really. It's just for anybody. Anatomical inventories are needed because they are really important for making sure that people can get efficient, timely, and effective care.
What kind of questions might be asked on an anatomical inventory?
Going to ask questions about the types of organs or body structures that a person would have that you no longer have. So maybe you had them originally but don't have. A good example of this for a lot of folks is an appendix, but it can extend to pretty much any organ in the body. Replacement parts that could be put in. So thinking about joint replacements and things like that, pacemakers, things that perhaps are not original to us, but yet it's very important for healthcare providers to know that we have.
Can you tell me where anatomical inventories are currently used?
What we found is very limited in terms of actual clinical use right now. Currently, I think primarily they're used in radiology. Beyond that, though, they're not widely used, although I think there's broad application, particularly in terms of person-centered care and improving the granularity of clinical decision making.
When might this information be collected?
Information can be collected at any point during the healthcare interaction, really, depending on wherever it is that you're attending and how it's going to be rolled out. But it could be at the front desk registration if you're attending an emergency room that you haven't been to before. It could be with your primary healthcare provider. It could be with any other number of specialists. It just really depends on the need and when this gets rolled out and whoever the doctor is that you see.
How would we collect information for an anatomical inventory?
Really can be a partnership between people, the patient, and their healthcare provider. And so we imagine that probably both are going to be providing information into the anatomical inventory. So as a patient, you might be indicating your personal health history when you go to see a new provider for the first time. And then as you work with your provider, they'll probably be updating that anatomical inventory to reflect changes that have happened in your life.
Okay, so maybe like a checklist or a verbal questionnaire from your provider.
Right. And that's some of what we have to figure out is what are the best ways to get this information.
What are other important considerations when implementing anatomical inventories?
People need to know how to use them, how to update them, how to confirm them or validate the contents, and also what their limitations and constraints are.
What do you see for the future of anatomical inventories?
I see these anatomical inventories being used for everybody in all types of healthcare. They're really important for, like I said, ensuring that people get efficient, timely, and effective care, but they're also really important for dispelling some of the inaccuracies and problems that people tend to believe in medicine, specifically as it relates to trans and gender diverse people. And then also the fact that sex and gender are not always in line with one another. Sometimes the organs you have nothing to do with your gender identity. The way we look at anatomical makeup right now is really based on if someone presents as being a woman or as being a man, but that doesn't really tell you what kind of organs somebody has. So I think using anatomical inventories to kind of separate the idea of sex and gender being the same thing will be really important for making sure that we can provide inclusive care, specifically for folks who are gender minorities. Um,
How can community, healthcare providers, policymakers, or other interested people get involved with this work?
Sure. And that's a great question because there's a lot of work to be done. We need their experience and their voice because we're just in the early stages of designing what they should look like and how they should be used. And so let's design it right the first time. So we need people who have lived experience. We need healthcare providers to tell us about what situations will this work best in. What are the problems we might encounter and what should we look out for? What are the best ways we can implement this? So in order to do that, we would invite people to participate in some of the ongoing groups that we have here in Canada.
I just want to thank a great many people, including the team that is doing this work. There's standards groups doing this work. Dr. Erin DeVore, inaugural chair in transgender studies, who is supporting this work, and all the work of everybody who is trying to ensure person-centered care is available for providers, and trying to improve care quality for people, and making sure that healthcare is accessible to all people.
Here are some resources to get involved. Thank you so much for watching. We hope that you learned about anatomical inventories and hope that you can get involved with some of our projects. Feel free to contact one of us if you have any other questions.